Hi guys, I'm Oki and welcome back to Destiny. In this video, I want to show you guys my 300 plus light Warlock and what loadout I'm using, as well as weapon and armor. So first up, let's have a look at my PvE build as a Stormcaller. For my super, I'm using Superconductor, so I can chain lightning between more enemies. And for my melee, I'm using Chain Lightning, so I can deal damage to as many enemies as possible. I'm also using Pulse Wave, which allows me and my allies to have a speed boost for 15 seconds when I'm critically wounded. And finally, I'm also using Arc Web, which makes my grenades even more deadlier. Now, the idea behind my PvE build is to deal as much damage to as many enemies as possible at the same time. Now over to my PvP build, not much have changed other than that I'm using Ionic Blink for my super. Ionic Blink allows me to move around faster and confuse the enemy. And for my melee, I'm using Amplitude, which gives my Thunder Strike greater range. Now let's go over to my weapons. In my primary weapon slot, I'm most of the time using the Jade Rabbit, whether or not it's a PvE or a PvP activity. Now, I'm not gonna go in too much detail about this weapon now, but one of the reasons why I found this weapon so formidable is because of the Fate of All Fools perk, which essentially allows me to deal as much damage as possible to a boss without having to reload. And it's also a 3-shot kill in the Crucible. You can expect a full review of the Jade Rabbit very soon. Now, if I'm using a legendary weapon in my primary slot, I'm most of the time using the Hung Jury SR4, which is the Dead Orbit Scout Rifle. This is an absolute beast, and its base stats is pretty good. Going over to my special weapon slot, I'm either using the Vanguard Shotgun Conspiracy Theory D or the Vanguard Sniper Rifle 1000 Yard Stare. Now both of these weapons is really good in both PvE and PvP. The shotgun has a pretty high impact and range, and it's great to use against majors and ultras. The sniper rifle is also a high impact one, and it's great for all encounters in the Kingsfall raid. Now if I'm using an exotic in my special weapon slot, I'm most of the time using the Black Spindle. Black Spindle is basically an exotic version of the Black Hammer, and it's an absolute beast against bosses in PvE. And finally, going over to my heavy weapon slot, I'm most of the time using the legendary sword, Arcedge. I gotta say that I'm really liking the swords in Destiny, and it's just a lot of fun to play with. Now swords is something I use in PvE, but in PvP I'm most of the time using the future Warlock rocket launcher called the Vertigo. Its base stats is pretty good, and it comes with grenades and horseshoes. I also have this exotic sword called Boltcaster, which is absolutely ridiculous, and I will have a more detailed video about that very soon. Next up, we have the Ghost Shells. There's not really much to say about them other than that they look cool, I guess. However, I'm using the Dread Explorer shell, which you get from a story mission, which I have infused into 296 defense. Next up, let's have a look at the armor. In the helm slot, I'm using the PlayStation exclusive helmet, Aesop Bend 1. I think it's a pretty cool looking helmet, and it also gives me more super energy from killing minions of the darkness. In the gauntlet slot, I'm using the exotic gauntlets, the Impossible Machines, which first of all looks dope as hell, but they also grants the Landfall perk for free, which is like a mini Fist of Havoc, and it also blinds nearby enemies. It also gives me increased melee attack speed and increased reload speed with Scout Rifles, something which is good because Scout Rifles is almost the only primary weapon type I use nowadays. In the chest armor slot, I'm using the Chasm of Yule, which is the chest piece from the Kingsfall raid. I'm not a big fan of the look of it, so I tend to put on a random blue chest piece every now and then. In the leg armor slot, I'm using the Path of Soul, which is the leg armor from the King's Fall. Now the perks I have on these is not too shabby, and it allows me to carry more ammo for rocket launchers, and it also gives me an agility boost after a melee kill. In the class item slot, I'm using the exotic bond, which you get from Dead Orbit, called Light Beyond. This bond increases my Dead Orbit's reputation gain, and it adds a really cool Dead Orbit effect on spawn. And finally, in my artifact slot, I'm using the Broken Crown. Now this was an artifact that was given from Erismon after I finished the Kingsfall raid quest, and the only reason why I'm using it is because it has 310 light. Now if you go down to the equipment section, you can see that I'm using the S34 Raven Steel, a Sparrow which I got from the Year 1 VIP package, and I'm using the Thermite Solution Ship, which I got from a Dead Orbit package. At the moment, I'm using the Hanged Man shader, which is a Dead Orbit shader, which I think looks pretty cool with this particular armor. Going down to my emblems, I'm using the Sign of Containment. This is probably the rarest item I have, and the way you get this is by submitting a video to Bungie for Movie of the Week. And if Bungie picks your video, it gets into the weekly update on Bungie.net, and you're also given this really cool emblem. And that, my friends, is my Warlock. I'm sorry that I've been gone for a while, but now I'm back with at least 3 to 4 videos a week. You can expect a video like this in the near future, where I go through my loadout and etc. on my Titan and Hunter. I have loads of videos planned for you guys, as well as exotic weapon and armor reviews, guides, subclass builds and more, so make sure to stick around for that. I also want to know what you think about the Taken King so far. Let me know in the comment section below. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe for more Destiny content, and I will see you all in a little big time. So stay awesome, guys.